Welcome back. A new study finds that older refugees who've come to Canada have higher levels of depression even decades after arriving here. The findings say refugees between the ages of 45 and 80 are 70% more likely to suffer from depression than those who were born in Canada. The depression levels were also significantly higher compared to immigrants who did not come to Canada as refugees. The study cited a lack of social support as a key factor. We're going to delve into this a little bit more detail here. Shen Lamson joins me now. He's the lead author and University of Toronto doctoral student. Shen, great to have you here on the program.
Thanks for having me.
So talk to me about the findings. Were they surprising, or was this something perhaps that you were expecting based on what you had already observed?
We find it's actually not that surprising given refugees, especially older refugees, have experienced pre-migration trauma, for example, forced displacement, human trafficking, and separation from family.
Yeah, certainly. And when we look at the reasons why they're coming here, where they're coming from, what they're escaping, they've already been through quite a bit of trauma. But you know, the whole hope is that they come to a new country to start a new lease on life and to see sort of more of that hope and happiness. So why then are we still seeing these high levels of depression among refugees?
Especially, thanks for that question. We actually try to untangle whether this pre-migration trauma and those post-displacement stressor, whether it's different from those non-refugee immigrant. And we find it's that actually non-refugee immigrant, their depression prevalence is kind of similar to those Canadian-born counterparts. So it's actually more relevant to their pre-migration trauma. And it is also a positive news that for the Canadian side, we're actually doing good for resettlement services and integration.
What about, I think, you know, services are made available and we certainly try and do a good job here, but what about supports, as you mentioned there, and I sort of alluded to it as well, that they're coming from a life of trauma, you know, probably still suffering from a great deal of PTSD. What kinds of supports do they need then if we're going to try and change the dial on this?
Yeah, that's a very critical question. So we think that actually the quality of the relationship rather than the quality of the association and social relationship that matters most to the refugees' mental health. So we think that this instead of just providing those social contacts with the refugee, we actually need to foster a more supportive interpersonal relationship among refugees in their families, neighborhood, and communities. And what's worth mentioning is the trauma-informed care is also very important for them.
Is this of rising concern? I mean, of course, it's never a good thing when we talk about Canadians suffering from depression or anyone suffering from depression. But when you look at the numbers, is this of a rising concern that something needs to be done immediately?
Yeah, that's really true because a lot of late life depression among the older population in Canada are actually a lot of them go underdiagnosed and under treatment. So it's really a very critical question and also concern for the policymakers and also the healthcare system.
Yeah, such an important report on an issue affecting so many. Lead author Shen Lamson. Shen, really appreciate your time and expertise on this. It's an important conversation, certainly.
Thank you, Angie.
You're welcome.